Hey everyone, it's Jake from Fife Paranormal, and today's going to be a really interesting video. Christmas is wrapped up, unfortunately. I love Christmas. And 2021 is almost here. And that means it has been 5 years since I started using the PSP-7 Spirit Box. So I'm going to give my thoughts on the Spirit Box, my criticisms, the things I like about it, and then give you some tips on how to use the Spirit Box to its most effectiveness. Now, I got this Spirit Box for Christmas, this exact one. I think we got it from Ghost of St. Augustine's store, I think is where we got it from. In terms of Christmas gifts, this is one of the coolest Christmas gifts I've ever received, and it's been one of the most useful. Simply because, I've used it on every investigation since then, and it's, it is pretty cool to use. Up until that point, I had always been using a voice recorder, so, you would... I thought I had it around here. I was going to be really illustrative at this point. But, you would do the session, be at a cemetery, haunted location for a few hours. Or if you're doing a full investigation, you're there for 8 hours. And, you're asked the questions, you're hearing stuff. But the thought that's always in the back of your mind is, I wonder if I'm getting anything. You ask a question, I wonder if anyone's responding to that. Oh, I bet we're getting a good EVP here, and you would have to go home. Of course, you would sleep because, you need sleep. And then the next day, you would, review all the audio, basically replay the whole, 9-hour investigation. And if you got multiple recorders, then it's, it turns into like a 24-hour thing. But, and that's when you find out whether or not you got evidence. So, to have a Spirit Box, which scans the radio waves at a very fast rate and creates white noise, which theory behind it is that white noise gives energy to spirits, and that spirits can use the white noise energy to communicate with us in real time. Now, there's a lot of people that don't believe in that theory. Everyone has their own beliefs. I do think the Spirit Box is a credible piece of equipment. I do think it does get good evidence as long as you use it correctly. Now, we always scan at 100 milliseconds. We don't go any slower than that, and that is the fastest that the PSP-7 can go. I think the PSP-11 can go 50 milliseconds, which is even faster, but I didn't like the PSP-11. It's got the dual sweeps, and it's just, it sounds like, you have a crashing wave in your ear all the time, and it gets really annoying. I've only used it on one investigation, though, and that was about 3 or 4 years ago, so I'd like to try a PSP-11 again. But back to the main topic, scanning on faster rates, it doesn't completely get rid of radio contamination, but it does, bump them down a little bit. And what it also does is when you're reviewing the files in Audacity or whatever audio program you use, you can kind of pick out, okay, this is a radio voice because it sounds like a garbled bunch of mess. I have noticed that you do kind of train your ear to hear, what a spirit voice sounds like. Typically, this isn't true for every case, but a good rule of thumb I use is when you hear the static cut out, like you hear the and then when it cuts out and you hear a voice, that's usually a spirit voice or a potential spirit voice. But if it's, doing the static, I'm not going to make the static train noise again, but when you hear that and you still hear a voice, typically that's a radio DJ. And then also sometimes when we investigate St. Alban's Sanatorium, we're up on a hill. Actually in the birdcage, the highest point, up on a ridge, you get radio signals really clear. And even on 100 milliseconds, I could pick out 1 or 2 words from radio DJs. And so what you do is when you hear that in your audio program, you're like, wait a minute, that sounds like he's leading into a song. You kind of piece together that sounds like radio DJ chatter, and so you just discard that. So using a PSP Spirit Box, or really any Spirit Box, it's not just plug it in and every voice is a spirit. No. I would say maybe 75-80% of the time, you're not going to get a spirit voice. There have been times where we have used these on investigations for 4 hours and gotten absolutely nothing, just sitting there in silence with white noise. And it does kind of drive you crazy after about 20 minutes, and then you've got the other 3 hours and 40 minutes to live with it, which isn't fun. So what I like to do, I should get this removed. The antenna, I do recommend getting it removed. The only reason I don't have my antenna removed is because I also use this as a storm radio. And then sometimes when I'm out on investigations, this is going to sound funny, but I do use this as a radio sometimes. Because, sometimes setting stuff up on an investigation, you get bored a little bit, it takes a while, so, you want to listen to some music. You don't want to drain your iPhone battery because, that crap drains really fast, and you don't always have a charger nearby. So that's why I haven't gotten rid of mine. There are Faraday pouches and cages you can get, but, I think once you train your ear enough to pick out radio versus a spirit voice, you're kind of good to go. Now, some people, can do that. Some people can't. It's, if you feel more comfortable getting rid of this so that you don't have to worry about it, knock yourself out. There are a lot of criticisms that, people will hear stuff and then they'll try to make something out of nothing. And that is true. I have caught myself doing this several times because, you're, in the heat of an investigation, stuff's happening, you really want the activity to keep going. So when you hear like, blah, 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 you're like, oh, it just answered my question. It said this. That does happen. So you have to control yourself. And, usually when you watch our live streams or our investigation videos, kind of like our Roundhouse documentary, you'll hear a voice. And then, me and Chris or me and Caitlin, you'll hear maybe a 1 or 2 second pause. And it's kind of awkward, not going to lie. But the reason we're doing that is because in our minds, we're going through this quick checklist. And it sounds like a quick checklist. It's actually about this long. Or at least in my case, it's a pretty long checklist. And that's going through, was that radio DJ? Could it have been this? Could it have been that? And once you eliminate those, it's like, okay, it's a spirit voice. It's like, could it have said this? Did it say this? And why would I think that? There's so much mentally that goes on while you're using a spirit box in just, in half a second that you don't really realize it when you're using the spirit box. It seems like such a basic piece of equipment. It is a basic piece of equipment, but there is so much going on with this device, especially, mentally, that you really don't think about. And it took me a while at first to get used to that, but now, I consider myself pretty good at using a spirit box. Some people, they say, oh, I'll never use a spirit box. I don't trust them enough. I like the good old-fashioned EVP. And, I agree with you. EVPs are more credible. I think, you get more credible evidence with a voice recorder, in a soundproof room than you would using this in the most active location in the world. But I would still take the spirit box with me because over the years of using this, I trust it. And I trust my abilities to discern between a spirit voice and a radio DJ voice. So, what are your thoughts on the spirit box? Have you used one? What's the best spirit box clip you've ever gotten? Because we've got some really good ones, and sometimes, you don't like what you hear in real time. But I'm Jake from Fife Paranormal. I hope you all have enjoyed this short little video. Not really a tutorial. It's just kind of, 5 years looking back at, all the craziness that has come through this spirit box. But thank you all for watching. Have a great day. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe for more.